Okay, people, we're going to talk about the most important horror video game ever made. Some would say the very first survival horror video game ever made, and I wouldn't argue with them, not in the slightest. The reason I say that is because nobody, and I mean nobody, was talking about survival horror until Resident Evil 1996 hit the shelves. I know some people like to discredit the game and be like, oh, Alone in the Dark, it was inspired by Alone in the Dark. Oh, and there's Sweet Home on the NES. Get that shit out of here. That is not in any way, shape or form what survival horror was. Resident Evil started it. Resident Evil coined the term. Resident Evil was the very first survival horror game. Not saying it was the first horror game. There's a difference. There's mechanics involved. And this game is the most important of all survival horror games. Because this is the one that started it all. This is the one that inspired things like Silent Hill. This is the one that turned into whatever the franchise turned into. It sparked everything. This is the one. And people like to discredit this game for random reasons. And I gotta admit, I'm a bit of a purist with this game, because if it wasn't for this game, I don't even think I'd care about horror. This changed me. When this came out in 1996, I was 6 years old. I shouldn't have been anywhere near this video game. My parents didn't want me near this video game. But my older brother was the one playing it, and I saw everything. This made me a horror fan. This really got me into video games. Because, I mean, video games before this point, sure, I was playing them. You know, the Marios, the Star Foxes, the F-Zeros. Of course, I was playing games on the Super Nintendo. But the PS1, this was like one of the very first games I saw on the PS1. And it blew my mind. It gave me nightmares. My parents refused to let me play it, but it didn't stop me. I found ways to play it. I used to wait until it was daylight to play this game. I refused to play it at night. It used to scare me shitless. I know some people will be looking at the graphics the way it is now, and they'll be like, this game scared you. First of all, I was a 6-year-old kid. I feel like kids get scared of everything. But you were lying if back in the day when you played this and the dogs jumped through the window, you didn't jump. Or the way the zombie turned and looked at you and you didn't shit your pants. There was so much done right with this video game. So much. And sure, people will be going, oh yeah, but the controls were so bad, I couldn't play that shit back in the day. Resident Evil wasn't playable until Resident Evil 4. And I'm not going to argue with you and say that these controls, the way this plays, is way better than the way it would play now, especially with like Resident Evil 2 Remake. That's just legendary where that's gone. But you have to respect what this game is. And obviously it's been remade, and you've got Resident Evil Remake, and people claim it to be the perfect survival horror game. It's got no flaws whatsoever, and there's zero reason to ever play Resident Evil 96. I would say fuck off with that statement. If you haven't played Resident Evil 96 and you claim to be into survival horror, I hate to be elitist, I hate to be a purist. I'm not saying you need to be it to be a fan. You need to play it to be a fan, but give it a shot. Come on now. Now, I get it. Some people will be looking at it and going, yeah, but if you just play the remake, looks better, it plays better. It's the same sort of game. It's got added stuff in it. Yeah, but you need to see where it all started. This isn't the preferred version I like to play this game. I prefer the Nintendo DS version. I know it's on a portable system, and that kind of sucks. I wish I could put it on the TV, which, I mean, you can with an emulator if there's workarounds. But it's just so pure. This is the daddy of them all. This is where it began, man. And I feel like everyone should play it. Everyone should be, at least survival horror fans, definitely need to play it. Sure, if you're in action horror games, I guess Resident Evil 4 is where everything starts for you, because obviously that's the new genre, if you will. But when it comes to pure good old-fashioned fixed camera angle survival horror, it gets no more pure than Resident Evil 1996. Sure, it's campy, it's very B-movie, but if you're into that kind of thing in the 80s, it just translates so well into video games. It's crazy, and it's magical. This game is just, it's legendary to me. Like I said, I wouldn't be a horror fan without it, so it means a lot to me. Now, what does it bring to the table as far as like comparing it to the remake and whether you should play it over the remake and stuff like that? I get so confused about which version I'm playing. I love the remake and I love 96, so when I never play the remake and go, you know what, I'm never ever going to play 96 again. It just doesn't happen for me. So when I play them interchanged, and because they are the same mansion, well, not exactly, but like for the most part, I get so confused with the puzzles, like the codes for computers, the location of items and what I'm supposed to do with them, because they did like remix things in the remake, and it just throws me through a loop sometimes. I end up going in doors where I'm like, hang on, I'm not supposed to be able to go through this door yet, am I? Oh wait, that's the remake, this is 96. I'm getting them mixed up. The amount of times I do that is insane. It is. When it comes to 96 as well, I genuinely think this is the one thing it absolutely does better than the remake, and that is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in the original is insane. Even where they changed some of the tracks for the remake, I think some of them just aren't done as well, and they don't have that creepy vibe. And it might be that case of like, oh yeah, but you were scared of that game in 96, so it's like you don't forget your first. And I get it. Maybe it is nostalgia. Maybe it is that first fear, if you will. But I feel like it creates way more of a creepy atmosphere that the remake just doesn't come across as well. And that doesn't mean I wasn't creeped out when I played the remake, which I mean speaks volumes to how good that remake is. But it's just done so well here, and I just don't think people give 96 the credit it deserves. It definitely, as time goes on, people want to forget about it and pretend it doesn't exist. And then obviously you've got the camp where it's like Resident Evil 2 came out and did everything so much better, therefore why would you play the original? It's just kind of like, yeah, but without Resident Evil 96, the one that walked so Resident Evil 2 could run, you know what I mean? I feel like we need to put some respect on its name. It's like, yeah, maybe it isn't as good as the sequels, maybe it doesn't do things as well, but it still is a good Resident Evil game, and it's really bizarre to just see the whole like Resident Evil fan base, if you will, for the most part. They even say they've never played it and they don't intend to, and it's just like, what? And to be fair, it's not exactly not accessible anymore. It's on the PS5. That's the version you're looking at. I'm playing the PS5 version. Out of all the classics, you can play it on modern platforms. But yeah, I love 96, and I feel like most people need to give it a shot, man. Just for the hardcore, like, survival horror guys. I mean, if you're a hardcore survival horror guy, have you not already played this? I hope so. Otherwise, you shouldn't be calling yourself hardcore survival horror fan, should you? Because it's like, fucking hell, play the original. I know I'm going to get some comments being like, well, Sweet Home did it for... No, I just don't listen to that shit. Nobody was talking about survival horror until Resident Evil came along. And the term wasn't, like, coined. It was Capcom. I don't want to hate any that shit, and someone's going to be like, well, Sweet Home was Capcom. The fucking... Just stop it. Stop trying to discredit 96. It is the one that started it all, and it always will be. Would I like Resident Evil 96 to be remade again in the style of Resident Evil 2 remake? Absolutely. I think it would make the best Resident Evil game. I want it in the style of Resident Evil 2 remake and not Resident Evil 4 remake. Keep that in mind. But I genuinely believe it would make the best Resident Evil experience ever. As long as they did it right, you know, and as long as they don't, like, shit the bed with it. Like they did Resident Evil 3 remake, where it was just like, fuck, this game is bare bones. But Resident Evil 96 deserves credit for what it did. I feel like people need to stop pretending it doesn't exist and just play the damn game. Give it a shot. It's there. Most people have PS4s. A lot of people have PS5s. Come on, man. You can play this game. Everyone can. But maybe it is just pure nostalgia on why I'm saying these things, because like I said, I was there. I've been there since 96. Were you there in 96? Maybe, do you think it's like, it's aged so badly where you can't go back and play it and you don't think anyone should? Am I the minority here? Am I defending something that's just pure nostalgia bait, and it's like, you only look fondly back at it because of how young you were when you played it and what it did for you? Maybe. But I still think we need to give it credit for what it was. It doesn't matter if games did it better later. It doesn't matter if the remake is better. What matters is, it's the daddy, and it will always, always be the daddy. Did you play Resident Evil 1996 back in the day? Do you plan on playing it because I just made this video and now you're like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll give it a shot. It's the director's cut on PS5. You've got extra content on there. There's 2 playable characters. If you want easy mode, play Jill. What the footage you're seeing is Chris, because I'm just that guy. I like playing Chris Redfield. I like that playthrough. I know a lot of people don't, and I do love Barry Burton, so it's kind of like I should play Jill, but it's just, I don't know what it is. I always pick Chris. It doesn't matter if I'm playing the remake. It doesn't matter if I'm playing 96. It's Chris Redfield all day long. Love this game. It used to be a yearly thing for me. I used to play it every year, but I'm a little bit rusty now, so excuse the footage if you see anything in the footage and you're like, God, this guy's talking like loves this fucking game and he's a fucking scrub. But I don't think I did anything too bad. But honestly, I love 96, and it can be pure nostalgia, maybe. And it's just, I don't know, it's B-movie goodness, man. It really is. And I know people are going to be like, yeah, but what about our voice acting? Our voice acting's legendary. I genuinely don't think the voice acting is bad as people make it out to be. I genuinely believe it's more so the writing. Because the voice actors are doing a fine job most of the time. But when the lines are things like, I don't know, Rebecca walks in a door and Chris goes, is that you, Rebecca? And it's like, you fucking blind. Some of the lines are horrendous, they really are, but the actors are at least trying, and it was totally new back then. Voice acting wasn't like Metal Gear Solid in 98. I know it was like 2 years later we got Metal Gear Solid, which is just fucking insane when you think about it. But voice acting really wasn't common back then. But yeah, I love 1996. I love it. It's one of the best games ever, even though, like, sure, it got outdone later on. It just means, I don't know, it means a lot to me, this game. It changed the game. Alright, people, let me know what you think of Resident Evil 96, or if you're even going to play it, or if you've never played it. Were you there like I was? Give me some memories in the comments, maybe. Alright, people, that's all I got. I'll catch you later.